What's up, brothers? In today's video, we are gonna watch a video from Practical Tasks about the bounty to break Melee's sub 3-minute barrier in Target Test. I actually used to speedrun Target Test a little bit myself back in the day, so I've actually been keeping track of the Target Test community a lot, and I'm excited to watch this video. And
Super Smash Bros. Has a long history of cash bounties. Bounties for beating specific players in tournament matches, for finding glitches, and for speedrunning. Back in 2019, the largest bounty Smash had ever seen was $1,658.90, and it was paid out in full for what I consider to be one of the all-time greatest group achievements in all of speedrunning, a milestone nearly 20 years in the making, breaking the sub 3-minute barrier in the combined world record times of Super Smash Bros. Melee's 25 Break the Target stages. And get this, that entire payout, and nearly a year's worth of effort from dozens of players around the globe, served one purpose: lowering those 25 world record times by a combined total of less than 1 second.
it actually might sound crazy when you put it that way, less than 1 second, but a lot of these characters in Target Test, some of these times have been the same / close to the same for a very long time. We have seen quite a few characters changing strats over the years, and I'm sure we'll dig in to that a lot. I remember when I started playing Target Test, the sub 3 was by many believed that it will never ever happen. Of course, you always have some people that always believe that things will be found and so on, but it was like the magic barrier that was debated at the time. With this bounty, I think most people realize they will happen eventually, but a group effort could be good, because even saving a single frame on some of these stages, that's a big task.
Super Smash Bros. Melee's single-player modes, especially Break the Targets and Home Run Contest, have long, rich histories dating all the way back to the game's release in 2001.
Ironically, this is like the worst stage in Target Test.
Lost, in some cases, the history books are still being written today. In May
Precisely because of that, you need a beam sword,
release,
and that's so annoying.
Surviving Break the Target's world record list reported that Melee's 25 individual levels had been completed in a total time of 3 minutes and 29.18 seconds. 1 year later, in May 2003, 22 of those records had been broken, and the total time had dropped to just under 3 minutes and 15 seconds, for 14 seconds of improvements. If you know anything about speedrunners, you know they love milestones, and Break the Target speedrunners are no exception. The dream was to have a total sum of high scores below 3 minutes. The next 14 seconds of improvements, however, took just a little bit longer. Okay, they took a lot longer. It took all the way to February of 2019, almost 16 years later, to get within striking distance of the 3-minute total.
That's crazy.
3 minutes and
for reference, my time, I never ultra grinded Target Test, but for reference, I think my total time is a 3 minute 8 seconds .40. I believe it is. But yeah, and I mean, to some people that might sound like close, but it's like miles apart. Some of these strats are so crazy, super cool. So I hope we get to see a lot of my favorite ones.
0.87 seconds. But in the intervening years, Break the Target's records had been impressively optimized. No new records would come easily, so members of the community decided to sweeten the deal with a hefty bounty. Save State, who was then the holder of the Link World Record, decided to put up $10 per frame for the 53 frames until the sum of high scores was at $259.99. Sockdude 1, the reigning king of Break the Targets with the lowest total time by a single individual, matched that. And Moody, in second place overall, put in €10 per frame. In total, as of the exchange rate on February 15, 2019, that's $31.30 for every 1/60th of a second shaved off a record. Or, put another way, $1,658.90 for less than a second of improvements. It sounds quite lucrative, and yet the reaction from most onlookers was, good luck. Like I said, no new records would come easily. Compounding this difficulty is the fact that break the target
I
stages
actually
are
really like
very
Sheik
short,
stage.
and Melee has been around for so long.
It's
Most
cool.
stages have been so thoroughly
I
researched
love the
that the
needles.
current world records already use their optimal route, so they could only be improved with better execution. Nevertheless, the break the targets runners got to work. The first record to fall was one of the oldest in the books, 8.41.
Actually, also, I do want to highlight since Practical Task talked about how Sock Dude was like the champion. I mean, he still is the champion of Target Test, but I think it's like even cooler that Sock Dude and also Moody's second place now, I believe, and I think he was at the time. But even if he wasn't, he was like third or fourth. But I think he was second at the time. I think that's like even more cool, right? That you have like literally the top runners pushing for the bounty as well. And Save State, I'm not sure if at the time, but I think he has the record at the Link Target Test to this day. I think so. I could be wrong, but he either has the record or is a frame off. But I think he has the record.
One with Donkey Kong had been set 11 years prior by the legendary old school player.
He's a
LP
Swedish
Zampa,
player
who set
from
new
Uppsala.
untied records for 14 of Melee's characters.
He actually
between
went to a few
2007
tournaments
and
back in
2009.
07.
Despite not being active since then, Zampa was still top 5 on the leaderboard at the end of 2019 over players who had the advantage of more than a decade of strategy improvements they could use to topple him. Zampa's DK record, set all the way back on November 3rd, 2007, had been recorded by a camera pointing at his TV and uploaded to YouTube years before the site supported 60 FPS video. This made it very difficult for players to analyze his run to determine how to save time, so a new record would be greatly appreciated. And only one tiny optimization was known, adding in a waveland after target 7 to potentially save a few frames on movement. After a few weeks of grinding, a player named Jerry3333 completed Donkey Kong stage a single frame faster than Zampa for an 8.40, breaking the previously untied record and claiming the first bounty frame on March 19, 2019. And while Zampa's record stood for 4,154 days,
As
Jerry's
one
last
way
hit
of phrasing
only
it, yeah.
won. He had been in a race with Sockdude for the first bounty frame saved, and both players used the same slightly improved strategy, so it was just down to who could execute it better. And while Jerry struck gold first, Sockdude got the last laugh. One day later, on March 20th, 2019, Sockdude shaved off another frame to 8.38.
I wonder how much
time
that
still
movement
stands
actually
as the record.
saves there.
That's 2 frames down and already $62.60 handed out. Though the amount of money actually changing hands was less than that, as Sockdude did win some of his own money. You'll soon see that that's a pretty common theme. The second record to fall was another that had lasted over 11 years. In fact, Marth 1's Bowser 8.20 had been set merely 4 days after Zampa's Donkey Kong. Some runners had expected Bowser to be the first to fall, but none of them had started to work on it until after the DK record had already been broken. Much like DK, multiple runners turned their sights
This
to
one is
Bowser
also
around the
like
same
so
time,
annoying.
and after 1 week of
Okay, Practical Test might go over this, but in case not.
much like DK,
So first of all, Target Test, if you play on original hardware, which I think you need to do to submit these type of records, you can't use the C-Stick. So every single aerial, besides Nair, obviously, like Nairs you can't do with the C-Stick, or you don't do them with the C-Stick. But like fair, backers, and so on, most players that play Melee use the C-Stick. But you can't do that in Target Test.
multiple
So
runners turned their sights to
primarily
Bowser
this
around the
fair,
same time.
like you have to jump
Time.
and hit fair while also retreating. So not having the C-Stick is a big disadvantage. And you need to SDI on this flipper as well. So you need to SDI, and that one is already very annoying. I can say that as someone that has tested this strat. I did get it a few times, like here and there, but it's hard to consistently get the SDI, jump, and get the fair while landing on this little platform or whatever you want to call it. Because, yeah, especially since you need to do the fair without the C-Stick. Peach's world record strat is another one that highly suffers from no C-Stick. But yeah, I mean, that's how it is. Nintendo decided that you could zoom in if you pressed up on the C-Stick instead.
And after 1 week of friendly competition on April 10, Frenchman Chaos 6 became the third person to earn a bounty payout with an 8.18, also 1 frame faster than the old record. There was still time to save on Bowser's stage, and several players had started investigating Jigglypuff, Link, Young Link, and Pikachu. So it came as a huge surprise when none of those characters were the next to see a break. Canadian runner Sam the Digital popped into the Smash Stadium Discord merely 1 day after Bowser was broken with a very simple message: 5.45. His own Roy record had stood at 5.46 for 2.5 years, and with the bounty, he found the motivation to grind until he knocked another frame off his time.
This strat is also super hard.
To see 2 records broken in 2 knocked another
Yeah,
frame
this strat is
off his
also
time.
super hard. This up B, hitting the flipper and sliding off here with like a lot of momentum and getting the fair. Yeah, that strat is insanely hard.
Days, but that's exactly what had just happened. Of course,
I don't think I ever
3
actually
in 3
completed that
days would be
strat.
even more unexpected, right? Well, hold on
Like,
to your
not
hats,
fast, at
because,
least.
Get this. Sam popped back in on the exact same day to announce that he had also knocked Luigi down a frame. That's right, 2 records broken by the same person in the same day, 1 day after another record had been beaten. Luigi was set at 3.23 seconds by American runner Link Stark Arrows in 2014, and Sam tied that score before saving 1 frame for a 3.21. This time save is especially notable given the length of Luigi's course. Only Mr. Game & Watch breaks his 10 targets in a shorter time frame, and of the 2, Luigi's is more optimized. The tool-assisted version of Luigi's Run, in which a player plays the game frame by frame to craft a theoretically perfect time, is maxed out at 3.16 seconds, merely 3 frames, 0.05 seconds faster than the real-time strategy. All the new records so far had something in common. They were all set by established Break the Targets players who had been playing for many years and had previously set world records. However, this streak was about to be broken. Young Link's stage is notable for how compressed its times are.
I
There are
hate
a
this
large
stage.
number of people who have times that are just behind the world record. This is because 7 out of 10 targets are hit by
Yeah,
boomerangs.
that first
which always
boomerang and
travel
the
at
second
same
boomerang
speed.
are both
So you only
annoying.
have movement and the remaining 3 targets to differentiate yourself from the competition. Thus, while being
Ironically, for that second boomerang, some people, I got told about this strat like probably back in 07. I think it was Sampa actually, the guy that used to be the best in the world at Target Test a long time ago. I think he was the one that told me that before plugging in the controller, it was a trick where if you held the control stick in a certain way, you would basically get the boomerang in a good angle for the second throw much more consistently. But at least back then, I found it annoying to like exactly hold the control stick that way to get that advantage. But I think that was a common strat. And then when I tested a strat again in like 2017 or something, I actually did beat my personal time at the time. So yeah, that was like a little loophole, I guess, that a lot of runners actually used.
7 frames behind the record is still world class on most stages. For some others, including Young Link, that's still not enough to get you into the top 10. Nonetheless, that's what 2 relatively newer players, Bobby and Mega Quartification, were going for, breaking sub 5 on Young Link, which would put them within 7 frames of the record tie at 4.87. Mega was the first to sub 5, scoring a 4.99 in January 2019 before the bounty had started. It may come as a surprise to learn that he had only learned the strategy a week prior. After the bounty announcement, he came back to the stage and quickly dropped his personal best to 4.92. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but he was unsatisfied with his time, and after some more grinding, he shaved off 3 more frames to become the 3rd member of the world record tie at 4.87. From there, he convinced himself that he could find one last frame and set a new record, but he hit a wall. So, after a week off and with a little bit of inspiration from the 3 new records that had been set earlier that week, he sat down and got back to work. Then, more than 3 hours into his session, this happened.
Yeah, 1 frame improvement.
Finally, 4.85, a newly untied world record, and, most notably, it was set by a player that had never held a Break the Targets world record before. What an amazing feat in a field where veterans sometimes seem to have insurmountable advantages. 1 month.
Ironically, in Target Test as well. So a long time ago, Dr. Mario had a strat that basically with the knowledge at the time, capped at 1340. And it was probably like 70, 80 runners that had that exact time, because it was like, I think you call it bottlenecked by a moving platform, and then you had to like jump from that platform and like double jump up B. And if you did that last up B perfectly, it was a 1340. But then afterwards, like, discoveries were found. You could like angle your up B better, and then a completely new strat was found. But for a long time, it was like legit a shit ton of people that shared that one world record. I also had it, but it was not impressive since like so many people had it, and it was like literally time the double jump to up B, and that's it to have the world record for that stage.
Later, Sam the Digital took 2 more frames off Bowser, knocking the record down to 8.15 seconds. For his trouble, Sam doubled his frame count to 4, and his bounty haul passed $125. Part of the issue with Bowser's stage is that the start is RNG. I have no idea what Melee's
Oh yeah, I forgot about this actually.
But each individual puff of Bowser's fire can travel at one of 65,536.
I do remember seeing this now when he mentions it, but I forgot about it.
Degrees down. The player has no way to control it, so they have a choice to make. How far to the right do they want to move before attacking? Going further right increases the number of angles that will hit, and therefore the number of runs that can continue, giving you more chances for a good time at the cost of a few frames. Staying more left does the opposite, putting you more at the mercy of RNG for the chance at a better payoff after a good enough roll of the dice. Sam's record beat Chaos 6's by 2 frames, and indeed, he was already 2 frames ahead at the slide off at 0.4 seconds. In other words, both runs broke the last 9 targets in the exact same amount of time, with the difference coming entirely at the start. And as a testament to the difficulty in overtaking these records, this was the 6th record broken, and the first that beat its predecessor by more than 1/60th of a second. But it would definitely not be the last. When talk of breaking the sub 3 minute barrier started, Fox's stage was one that people saw a lot.
Yeah, this strat is also really hard.
The old record for the stage, 6.68 seconds, had been set also by LP Zampa back in 2008. Fox is a highly technical character, and his stage requires him to use every tool in his belt to complete it as quickly as possible. Unlike the other bounty records so far, Fox still had the potential to take a large chunk out of the bounty.
Yeah, in case that wasn't seen either, with these lasers here, you're actually getting another target off screen. This laser that is shot there, it also hits a target. So now you're gonna see the 2 targets disappear: the one on screen and the one off screen. And that's also very precise.
Fox still had the potential to take a large chunk out of the bounty all by himself. The thing is, though, improvements had actually started right before the bounty was set. In January and February 2019, 3 players had taken Zampa's time down a total of 10 frames. First, Jerry with 6.67, then Moody with 6.62, and finally Sockdude with 6.52. The most notorious part of the stage is the large wall you need to climb after hitting the first 3 targets. The most efficient non-task way to get up there is with the jump, double jump, wall jump, and upward air dodge, but the air dodge needs to be at a perfect angle in order to contact the ground as quickly as possible. But it's clearly not enough to be fast at the start. Of the 3, Jerry's run actually was the fastest up the wall. The second place where it's easy to lose time is on this wall. You need to move to the right to clear the wall, then back to the left to trigger an incredibly finicky wall jump. Indeed, Moody went from 3 frames behind Jerry
and then
to
can't
3
use the
frames
C-stick for the upper
solely
either.
on having a faster wall jump, and he stayed 3 frames ahead the rest of the way. In his 6.52, Sockdude went from 1 frame behind Jerry to an absurd 8 frames ahead, then gained another the rest of the way. Both sections still had potential for improvement, but despite this, it took until July 20th, 2019 for the record to be broken again. Moody took 3 frames off with a 6.46 thanks to a blisteringly fast wall jump, and yet he was still behind Jerry's 6.67 at the top of the wall. Unsatisfied with leaving an obvious time save on the table, Moody went back and finally got the start he wanted a few days later on July 25th, 2019. He landed above the wall 1 frame faster than Jerry, outpaced his own 6.46 by 1 frame the rest of the way, and ended up with a 6.40.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
When all was said and done, Moody cashed in his 7 Fox frames to the tune of over $200, though a third of that was his own money. This nearly doubled the number of bounty frames paid out and brought the world record total down to 3 minutes and 0.62 seconds. Much like Fox, Samus' stage is another one that's difficult to be fast at, but had too much untapped potential to ignore.
I actually did grind the stage a little bit back in like 2019, I think it was.
Times, but nobody could topple the 7.
I think I got a
that
795,
had been set by Link's Dark Arrows,
which is actually surprisingly close to the old record.
Sockdude, who had actually tied
I think I still could
2018,
beat my own time quite a bit if I actually
another
grinded
crack
it
at
more.
Starting on August 15th. Just 2 days later, after only about 4 hours of play, he got the untied world record with a 7.82. There's a reason why he's the king of breaking targets. This particular record would only last a few months, but nonetheless, the 3-frame save paid out almost $94. September passed without any new records, so an outside onlooker would have been forgiven for thinking that the remaining 35 bounty frames were going to take forever to be saved. But behind the scenes, 2 characters were being worked on, not just with the potential for frame improvements, but with the implementation of entirely new strategies: Jigglypuff and Pikachu. Both new strategies were well known but had never been accomplished in a world record run. Jigglypuff's involves a glitch where she squeezes between a wall and a moving block. As she gets squished from both sides, the block pushes her through the wall, potentially saving a large amount of time. This had been known to be possible since at least 2004, but even the current world record pace wasn't fast enough to get there in time. 7.62 set by Sockdude in 2015 was 5 frames too slow to the block, and Moody knew that he needed some strategy improvement to make up that time. Back in January, Moody had a run where he missed a few targets but got the push, and he hit the 10th target at 7.43. The block moves at a consistent timing, so if he could speed up the start of the run enough to make it there without missing targets, then the 7.43 ending would save a massive 11 frames.
Oh shit, yeah,
the
that's a lot.
exact same start wouldn't be enough, since whenever you hit a target, you suffer a few freeze frames called hit lag, which increases as the strength of the hit increases. By missing targets, Moody had skipped freeze frames.
Yeah, so a big stride in target test as well is using weaker hits due to what Practical Tasks just talked about.
Unintentionally taken.
That also means that actually some characters, like PAL in NTSC, is different. Like Sheik's up air is stronger in NTSC, so PAL Sheik is actually better for target test since you get more hit lag. There are a few differences with other characters as well. Kirby's like a little bit slower in NTSC. Marv, you know, with Shine, how in PAL he gets knocked down but not in NTSC. It's a flipper on the Marv stage, so he can like wall tech after hitting the flipper and like fast fall quickly. I think Falcon's a weak knee. Yeah, weak knee. It's stronger in NTSC, so you get more lag as well. So there are quite a few characters where playing PAL actually is better for target test. And then the opposite holds true in home run contest, if I remember correctly.
Less time to get to the block. After months of testing all sorts of possibilities, Moody eventually decided to try a modified TAS strat, where he'd use Jigglypuff's down aerial instead of her neutral aerial to hit the first 2 targets. As down aerial is a very weak move, it hits the first 2 targets with a total of 7 fewer hit lag frames than neutral aerial, but it puts Jigglypuff in a far more technically demanding position if she wants to maintain that lead. In March, Moody had started hitting the new start, and his pace quickly surpassed the old one, but he didn't have a completion yet. He took a few months off from Puff, but came back to her when bounty progress elsewhere seemed to have stalled. Finally, on October 6, 2019, this happened.
Ready? Go!
12 frames,
That's massive.
$375 in one shot. All of a sudden, sub 3 didn't look that far away. But Moody wasn't done with Jigglypuff yet.
Yeah, that's
On
a
Bobby's
pretty cool
recommendation,
trick.
He implemented a reverse forward aerial during the block push to save a few more frames. And a week later, he brought Jigglypuff down another 5 frames to 7.33. He was actually a frame slower to the push this time,
Yeah, dude.
but that was a good thing. It meant that Puff would stay in contact with the block for 1 additional frame, giving her a tiny extra push on top of the second strategy improvement.
Holy shit.
Jigglypuff's record used a strategy from 2004, and the next record would actually come from a player who had last set a record in 2004. Mario 64 Master had set a Samus record of 8.18 seconds in October of that year. A new Samus record had been set 6 times since then, including Sockdude's recent 7.82, but Mario 64 Master came back to reclaim the throne. And he did so in a scientific, methodical way unlike anyone I've ever seen in Break the Targets. He analyzed video footage of any fast Samus runs he could find, figured out who was fastest to which targets to determine where he could...
Yeah, I think he actually helped me with Samus a little bit as well, and like had basically like spreadsheets with like all these, you know, runners, like which frame they were hitting each target, how many frames between each target as well. Like, yeah, he had a very interesting method that was, of course, very, very successful.
...improve, and kept copious notes on...
Yeah, here we have like a lot of runners. I'm not sure if I was there at the time. I probably got my time later. Because yeah, I think I had a 795. Yeah, I don't think it's on this one at the time. So I probably got mine later.
...runs that had good individual splits. Mario 64 Master put in roughly 100 hours into Samus alone over 3 months, at roughly twice his age the last time he had set a Break the Targets record, and his tenacity eventually paid off. He took back the Samus record by 3 frames with a 7.77, then dropped it by 1 more to 7.75 in November for a total payout of $125. Around the same time, he even broke the Samus Break the Targets task record and joined Zampa's Mr. Game & Watch in the very rare club of players who held both the real-time and task records for the same character. With Samus down, there were only 14 bounty frames left, and everyone's eyes were on Pikachu, perhaps to even finish the job. But while the bounty was running, a YouTuber and tasker named Practical Tas had been working on a video chronicling the history of Peach's Break the Targets, and it had a bit of a surprise at the end. A brand new world record, using a strategy that I had confirmed was faster than the existing. Sockdude pulled off a 9.46 with Peach, which beat the record by 4 frames and improved his personal best by nearly half a second. The massive gap came from the fact that it was his first ever non-tool assisted completion of Peach's Beam Sword strategy, which requires getting a 1 in 768 chance.
Yeah, and you have to get it on the second pull
with
too.
Peach's down special. Sockdude had actually done this in early November, but he kept his time a secret so it could premiere in my video. I could go on about Peach forever. In fact, I already have, so if you want to learn more about her, the best place to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I think that video from Practical Tas was really, really good. But the RNG requirement, it's just so annoying to grind. Since the Beam Sword saves so much time, as we could see in the comparison just a second ago.
Since the release of the Peach video, at least 4 more people have broken the 10-second barrier on her stage using the non-Beam Sword route that it describes. One of those players is also well known in the Legend of Zelda speedrunning community. His name is Demon.
Also
Before
fellow
Demon was
Swede.
breaking records in the Legend of
I actually
Zelda
used to talk to him a lot
he was
back in those
actually a
days when
prolific Melee
we
single
both
player.
ran this.
At one time or another from 2007 to 2013, Demon had set Break the Targets records for 8 characters, one of which still stood all the way through the end of 2019, Pikachu. He hit 7.20 on January 1st, 2010, and much like Moody with Jigglypuff, he took inspiration from the TAS route to finally crack that record. The 6.68 TAS uses an absurdly precise up B angle which required holding the control stick at a specific diagonal coordinate, and to make matters worse, that coordinate is in the middle of the control stick's range rather than on the edge, so you can't use a notch for consistency. Bobby had actually hit it several times starting in March, but it wasn't considered reliable at all. The concept is actually pretty similar to that of an extended super slide in Ocarina of Time, so it's pretty fitting that a Legend of Zelda speedrunner figured out how to make it work.
I actually had no idea about that. That's
After
cool
testing,
though.
Demon figured out that the up B could be more consistent if Pikachu traveled diagonal first, then sideways.
Wait.
This meant that
I want to see what he said there. Found it to be easier for myself to do the up B upright and then right instead of right. I see.
consistent if Pikachu.
Yeah, I know
traveled
Axe was
diagonal
grinding this
first,
strat and
then
actually
sideways.
landed this strat,
This
even
meant
though
that
he
the
never got
precise
the world
coordinate was
record.
needed during the straight sideways movement instead of the diagonal, and Melee's generous controller dead zone meant that the runner only needed to worry about precision on one axis instead of both. After several close calls, Demon completed the new strategy for a 7.35 with several clear areas to save time. The new route was clearly faster when done optimally, so now that there was a completion, it was only a matter of time before a new record would be set. The race was on and over $300 were at stake. There were 10 bounty frames left, and this new Pikachu strat could easily take home all of them. Or, as Link's Dark Arrows perhaps exaggerated, one meh run with Pikachu makes 259 free. A 703 would be a
let's
10
go,
frame
Axe.
improvement, and
Let's
sub
go.
7 was definitely possible. Even top Melee competitors joined the fray, including the
Hello,
best Pikachu, Axe,
Almsa
and the
actually
recently
held
retired
a
former
Yoshi
number one player,
record
Armada.
for a little bit.
First blood was soon struck.
Wait, what did they say
Armada
about me?
Retired. Former number one competitors joined the fray, including the best Pikachu, Axe. And
I
the
mean,
recently
I never
retired
actually like
former number
super
one
aimed for
player,
one of
Armada.
the
First blood
world
was soon
records,
struck.
but I
On
did go for
January
some
1st,
PBs.
2020, Demon sent a very simple message.
Like,
to his
I didn't feel like I have like too realistic shot at any of the world records without an insane grind. But I've always been a fan of Target Test. I think it's cool. A lot of the strats are just super cool looking as well.
Stadium Discord.
But yeah, Target Test, yeah,
Hey.
it's dope.
And a YouTube link. It didn't end the bounty. In fact, it was only a 1 frame improvement to 7.18 seconds. But it was a new record, beating Demon's old time exactly 10 years to the day that he set it. And 1 day later, Demon beat his time again, scoring a 7.10 for another 5 frames of improvement. Demon was up to almost $188 in bounty money and had brought the total high score to within striking distance of sub 3 minutes. 3 minutes and 0.05 seconds, nearly
so
4
close,
frames
so close.
from the magical 259.99. That very same day, January 2nd, 2020, sub 3 was finally achieved. But it wouldn't be Demon who did it.
Ready?
Yes! Oh my god!
Who else could it have been but Moody? He had already earned 24 of the first 49 bounty frames, and with his blistering 6.97 second Pikachu run, he cleaned up the last 4 with room to spare. Most of his time save relative to Demon was at the edge cancel. While he was only 1 frame ahead of Demon going into it, Demon had an 8 frame wait before he inputted jump, while Moody was merely 2 frames slower than optimal. Moody had been practicing with the save state to get the muscle memory for the edge cancel down, and while the extra time spent practicing meant that Demon took the majority of the remaining bounty frames, Moody walked away with the glory of being the person who took the total below 3 minutes for good, and another $125. Because he was responsible for a total of 28 bounty frames, he actually came out net positive on the bounty despite paying out roughly 36% of it, before accounting for fluctuating exchange rates. In total, he committed €530 to the cause, or roughly $600 at the start of the bounty, and he received about $875 to walk away a remarkable $275 up. You might be tempted to think that the story ends there, right? Well, you're wrong. The crazy part is, the Break the Targets runners are still going. Several of the records in this video have already been beaten. Breaking the 3-minute barrier only increased the amount of interest in Break the Targets. In fact, we didn't just go sub 3 in 2020, we didn't even just go sub 259 in 2020.
Yeah,
We
this is like
actually
even
went
crazier
all
than
way
the sub
down
3
to
itself.
Sub 258 in under 12 months, then sub 257 in the first half of 2021. This included a brand new strategy on the Ice Climbers.
Yeah, this strat is
that,
crazy.
had it been discovered a year earlier, could have cleaned out the entire bounty fund and then some in 4 days. But that's a story for another time.
I don't remember exactly how much the Ice Climber strat ended up saving, but it was an absurd amount of time. I think it was like a second and a half or something. I'm probably off, so don't take my word for it. But it was a second plus. It was a second plus for sure. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Really cool, really cool. Actually, it also reminds me that a new Falco strat was found recently that have potential of saving like, I think it's like half a second-ish So that could also maybe be a future video for practical tasks. Once someone lands it. No one have, as far as I know, landed the Falco strat yet. So that could happen. Who knows? Maybe I test it out at some point. Falco is actually one of my favorite target test characters. I think Sheik and Falco are probably my two favorites. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to follow the channel in case you haven't. And make sure to follow Practical Tasks as well, since he did a tremendously good job with this video. But yeah, take it easy, everyone. Peace.